All right, everybody rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Attendance?
President Dr. Reese,
Present.
Vice President McDonough, Secretary Summers present, Treasurer Hanser,
Present.
and Trustee Schaefer,
Here.
Trustee Schultz,
Here.
and Trustee Whitney, absent.
Great. Any changes to the board agenda? No. None. All right, school presentations. Miss Janet Schnell, OVA.
Good to be here. I wasn't able to present last year. I was at a conference. So I'm really looking forward to highlighting all the wonderful things going on in OVA and our amazing team. My arms are really bad because I had a cold. Do you mind if I turn a little bit? Is that okay?
No.
Is it okay?
Just hold the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Better. Yeah. So we'd like to start out just giving an overview of some of the highlights. We serve, because a lot of people don't know exactly all we do over at OVA. We serve almost 7,400 students. You can see our numbers there. We enrolled about 870 students this past summer and 94 students in January. So lots of busy stuff going on, a lot of awesome students coming in. And I was notified recently that OVA is named #2 online school in the state of Portage. So it's a very pretty cool recognition. Our Points of Pride overview, the continued growth I just spoke about, and it's truly a collaborative effort with our shared time programs and our team at OVA. Our year-round staff works through the year trying to get our kids enrolled and settled. And we want to highlight a little bit of that of the shared time program. Our school improvement process is, I'm really, really proud of that. Stephen and Nita have been just incredible support for us and really helping us, now that I say grown up, to systematize, get processes in place, really work on our data, which leads into our MTSS intervention work with Christine, and just getting all of that really, really structured. Our APs have done an amazing job of working with our students and staff. Our PLC leadership and our advisory class and our custom course creation, we're creating courses, and our new therapy leaders, Dr. Hopper, SEL Dog Jake, we're super proud of him. This is our virtual solutions team. You can see Christine and her team over there. They support 30 of our public partner schools, approximately 1,400 students at usually 1 or 2 courses. We also support consortium districts, so Portland High Schools, Will Keith is a superintendent there, a good buddy of mine, and our high school team teaches just workforce provider for them. And Royal High School has online classes for ASL. We have over 400 consortium enrollments this year. So I'm super proud of that. It's a great relationship. The MyKit that I mentioned, at the elementary level, we are focusing in depth on math interventions, reading curriculum. We implemented a new writing curriculum through Blackbird. The board approved that. It's going really well. We're continuing to revise. And we're using the PLCs to create opportunities for professional exchange of ideas. So at the secondary level, improving skills in the Harvard algebra, improving writing through revision, reading using imprints. This is an opportunity for systemic change. So we talk about sense giving versus sense making. So just telling teachers, this is what we need to do and why. We help them make sense of it, and that's leading to some really great conversations in our PLCs around the data and what we want our students to know and do, and then what we need to do as a staff to change and improve and to continuously be working on that. So for elementary, we went from fall to fall, 564 elementary students to 717. So quite a big jump. So almost 16% of IRIS and 60% at-risk designation. So we really worked hard. Our IRIS came down, positive student data trends and time spent in the system and graduating elementary students out. of the interventions, which is our goal, right? We want our kids to graduate out if we can. So we're tracking student data by geographic location to be more strategic in delivering interventions at our many locations. Our first year of implementing Delta Math and OB Max is our system-wide, and that's, I think, the big thing Jordan wanted to know. We're really getting a system set in place, and we're seeing progress. Our data is showing that. We'll show a little bit. The secondary MindCap goal work, we call them our NOAA Grows, that was voted. Steve worked it with us. And the whole point of this is that we wanted to create, within the online courses, our students will see these mini lessons, and it's to get our students engaged with their teachers. So via the lesson design, course design, getting our students to come to the table, that it's not just they're sitting, teachers aren't just waiting behind a screen and you're just this passive learner, that they are actually working with them one-on-one via Zoom or coming into the lab. So it's been a lot of work, a lot of learning for us. So it's been a really great, I would say, MindCap goal, Michigan Continuous Improvement. I think I just kept saying to the teachers, it's building muscle and stretching and capacity in ourselves to work with our students more one-on-one and just, like I said, the back burner. This is an example here. We had 212 courses containing NOAA lessons, and it does these teaching efforts and continuously monitor and adjust, and that there are opportunities for student engagement. So we have the data, we won't go through it all, but super proud of that. And this all too, I think I just want to come back to is when we look at our portrait of a graduate, when we design a personal improvement process and we look at our professional development and we spend our money, I have the budget, I'm always looking at that end goal, our portrait of a graduate on the way, and are we aligning to the strategic initiatives in the district and that portrait of a graduate? So everything we do continuously goes back to that theme. And this is just where we stand with our SAT scores. And so we're really, really trying to raise the math. You can see the county and the state. And with the 60% designation of at-risk, we know we have ways to go, but we're really proud of how far we're coming with so many at-risk students. And we took input from the high school and neighboring communities, and kids are in crisis all over the place. So we're really working on academics and social emotional, which I'll touch on in a minute. Our MTSS process, I went through a lot of this, but I really want to highlight under secondary our Tier 2 interventions. Gianna's worked really hard. Jordan had worked our APs in the elementary world, but we really now have a strong tier system. And our PASS class is really, I would argue, very innovative. It's a personalized class. We're able to to load our IXL and different products within that course and very individualized for each student, depending on if they're in Tier 2 or Tier 3. It's a 90-hour course. They give up an elective to work on those gaps in their skills. So super excited about that. We're just really implementing that this semester. So next year we'll have more on that. I think for this one, it's it's like focusing again on the reading and the math. I think you can stick that. We have that data. The progress monitoring is what I really want to point out here. That was what I kept saying. I felt like that was a weakness. That now having a system, we're really honing in on progress monitoring. So how do we know how students are doing? Are we monitoring it? Are we adjusting? Are we rating ourselves on how they're responding to the intervention? So, and at secondary level, we have a new math and ELA screening assessment of that 2, 2, 2, 3 math and ELA class. IXL has been a pilot this year, and working hard to get our kids enrolled in that for grades 6 through 12. ELA is in 11. The recording of adult math intervention at EduClimber, that's been a little bit difficult this semester to try and get all that loaded, but we're hopeful that it'll get in there soon. It's not easy to kind of import, so we're working on that. with the district office. This is just a highlight of OVA's IXL data. So we had answered, our kiddos have answered 1,110 questions. Yeah, and they've answered over 2,500 skills. So that's called the IXL effect, and we're going to see how it goes. But Steve helped pilot it for us. I know other school districts in the area use it. So we're hopeful, and we're seeing some good things. Here's the sample student individual progress from the fall. So from September of 2023 to January 2024, the student score grew from 620 to 790. That's a whole grade level working in that Excel. And we have other examples, but that just will give you an idea of what we're looking at. So. And then Delta Math, it's a product out of Ottawa, ISD, and Karen Barnes here, she's worked really hard with our assistant principals to implement Delta Math, and this is some data. OVA 6 middle schoolers took part in math interventions. They are showing great promise. For example, the 6th grade students in the chart have shown great growth since the fall. The left reflects mastery of 6th grade readiness standard 1 in the fall, and the middle reflects mastery of those same standards in January. So we're seeing positive trends. Yeah, it's really good. We're excited about it. And then highlighting our professional learning community. So excited. This has been part of my just the whole philosophy since OVA started. And we had PLCs, but we didn't have them structured, and we didn't have leaders. And Steve is really, and Anita with elementary, but especially at the secondary levels, come along and really helped us implement a strong, it's not a program, it's a process, right, that changes culture and thinking. So now we have our PLC leaders, and we are having data-rich discussions. They were launched just recently. They had, Caitlin was there last week and hosted their first training. And the big thing is, it's to force 4 questions. What do we want all students to know and be able to do? And how will we know if they learn it? How will we respond, and how we extend the learning for students who are already proficient. So that's a lot if you really think about that. That's all of our students, right? So Steve and Ryan Reed supported this process. A big shout out. 8 PLC leaders were identified. And then at the elementary level, our PLC leaders are instructional coach and reading specialists. So it's there's continuity across all grade levels, even though they're really our PLC leaders in the elementary world. In our world, we have our coach and reading interventionist. And then that just carries on through the middle school. So they attended some meetings with us. So this was their meeting, and we're getting some really great feedback from our teams. And I'll be doing kind of a loose type model type for a while to join our instructional coaches and just monitor and help get that program really, or process that program off the ground. This is super exciting. Last year, I thought we need to get an advisory course to get social emotional learning to be part of the district's 3-year recovery. And it was always kind of loose because it's hard. Not all of our kids are in front of us. Some of our hybrids. How are we going to do this? Everybody was scratching their head. I said, you know what? I think we need to create an advisory course that mirrors the Seated Schools, but in an online version. So I knocked on Caitlin's door, and together we started and created an online course. We worked with our counselors, our administration, and even Neil was involved, Tracy, and the whole crew. We had so many people involved in our out in the field. So basically, our goal is to increase student engagement with counselors and mentors. So you have to engage with them for them to even come to the table to talk about social emotional lessons, to meet with their counselors, just to gauge how they're doing. So we embedded the SEL pilot trails in that. We have Zello, which is the EDP, which has always been a struggle to get the kids to the table to work on their EDP. Whether or not you can't pull out a class in our world, right, unless you're in hybrid world. So the social emotional learning opportunities have been great, and staff collaboration. So for semester 2, we want to continue the EDP lessons and really hone in on our FAFSA education and completion efforts, which is important. So custom course creation, Matt Santala, and he's not here tonight, but Matt and Caitlin will be presenting at the national conference. Super proud of them. They're actually going to present as a session at the month. And this is an example of an ELA course that we've created. So Oxford has its own curriculum being built. It's going to be a slow process, but we're getting there. This is our English 9A, kind of what it looks like. Shout out to our kiddos, service and learning with the Fortune of Graduate. We talked about being balanced and caring. They created collected and wrapped gifts for less fortunate families this winter, and they completed a hygiene drive and a school supply drive this year. And it's difficult because our kids come from all over. Our kids, National Honor Society, most of them drive an hour to get here. So pretty impressive. We had high tea, we had a frog-based section. Jake's hanging out. He's been just amazing. We're so proud of having Jake. You can see our kids at the lab. We did some other big event there and visiting. Jenny's up there, our school secretary. So it's really a family event when we have things going on. It really draws our kids in and creates community. These are students out in the field, so we have all those, we have 8, 9 big hybrid locations and our homeschool locations, so those are some of the things going on in the field. They don't just sit behind a computer. This was our big Winter Fest that we hosted out at the Subiaco Retreat House. We had people snowshoeing, we had speakers, we did a big event for MLK Day. We raised everybody riding canned goods and we were able to distribute them throughout the community. Super proud of that. And let's look at our drive. So we thank the board and our district leadership so much for believing in us. We launched, you remember? I do. Back in 2000, I remember working on OVA in 2010 and we launched in 2011. So we've come a long way from in the basement with 238 students and by myself to today. So we thank you so much for your support. We just, it means the world. So if you have any questions, we have the answer.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I loved all the data in it too, by the way. I did have one question on it. When you were looking at this graph that has the state versus Oakland County ISD, yeah. Are those seated students or virtual students in the other two buckets? For the state and Oakland?
Those are the state, like anybody that's in the Michigan high school data in the state, they could be a mix of some of
Yeah, it's everyone.
It's everyone. So you can have, oh my gosh, Howell has a virtual academy, Rochester has, so there could be a little bit of both. We have the biggest.
Okay.
And then Oakland, same thing.
They're not seated students though, or they include? So
It's mixed.
and yours is just our virtual kids. That's what I was trying to,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is the whole
So it's
school.
actually kind of really cool to see how close you are to seated kids as well.
I was trying to say that right.
Yes. Any other questions or comments from?
Thank you, Michelle, for bringing all of this to us. And thank you to the OVA team. I did get to stop by the Winterfest for a few minutes, and it was really wonderful to see you all and be a part of that energy. And I think you're doing amazing things over there, and watching how excited everybody was about professional development. Like, people were really excited to get together and share all this. So thank you for letting me have a little window in your world. It's great to be constantly improving. So thank you for what you do.
Thanks. Any, Colleen?
Just a comment. I love OVA and all the opportunities it's brought to our kids here in Oxford, and what a great job you've done. And Janet, we've come a long way since that first day when we opened up for, was it the sign up at the board office?
Pictures.
Oh, is that what it was? Pictures? Okay, yeah. And we had no idea how many people were going to show up, if 10 people were going to show up, and 250 showed up, and Janet and I were like, what the heck are we doing? So it was lots of fun, but yeah.
And they've been showing up ever since.
Yeah.
I have a great team. We all work so hard on the market process. Just things I think the district has been strategic in identifying people and putting, investing in a program. That's when I say thank you. That's the kind of thing, like, I have somebody that can manage all these different locations because it's a full-time job. Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is.
So I just want to say to all of you who grew this program, having had a view across the entire state for other programs like this, there is no other like this. You have grown it very well, so kudos to everybody. Very, very impressive, and wonderful for the kids who get to participate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you coming out tonight. All right, moving on the agenda, scheduled public comment. We had none, right, Angela? Okay. All right, item number 5 on the agenda is the consent agenda. We had the minutes for the January 2023 meeting, bills payable for January, and our human resources update. Take a motion from Mary.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support? Colleen?
Support.
Any discussion? None? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item number 6, superintendent report, Dr. Markovich.
We are going to start, sorry. We're going to start with the staff update. Ms. Reed.
Hey, good evening, Board of Education. Anyone listening at home, I'm Ryan Reed, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, and I'm here tonight to present you with a staffing update. On our first slide, or our second slide here, you'll see Oxford Community Schools by the numbers. And I'd like to start by saying this list is not inclusive of all employees, but I wanted to highlight for you that we have 856 total employees, 380 teachers, 101 paras and secretaries, 55 shared time teachers and mentors, 44 cafe helpers, 43 bus drivers and monitors, 26 retired substitute teachers, and 12 student employees, among others, including our amazing administrative team, our at-will support staff at central office and OVA, maintenance, and anyone I didn't mention by name, all very valued members of our community. This year, so far, we've welcomed 72 new employees, and that includes 22 new teachers and 50 support staff. All of these folks are recognized each month in our HR newsletter, Thrive. On this slide, you can see the actual number of resignations and retirements for the last 5 years, and I will give you a moment just to take a look at that. The next slide will display the same information, but in another format. You can see our 5-year trend here using the same data from the previous slide. We do have a peak in 21-22. I would like to point out that the data is inclusive of all positions except for shared time employees, student employees, and retired substitutes. So the shared time folks Janet spoke about are all across the state, really in different locations, so they're not included in this trend data for you. On this slide, you will see our turnover rate by year. In 1920, we were at 7.8%, 2021, 9.9%, 21-22, 11.4%, 22-23, 8.6%, and thus far for 23-24, we're at 5.8%. So you're aware turnover is calculated by dividing the number of retirements and resignations by the average number of employees during that year. As I wrote on the slide, benchmark turnover data is in the range of 10 to 11.5%, and across the nation, districts, K-12 districts experience peaks in 21-22 and 22-23 due to the pandemic. So I want to expand on some turnover considerations for you a little bit more. Based on our data, our turnover rate is on par with other K-12 districts. We saw an increase in the 21-22 school year, as did many others, as I mentioned. The tragedy is a compounding factor in addition to the impact of the pandemic. National experts have advised us that staff turnover is to be expected after a mass violence incident. Turnover can be mitigated by implementing ongoing, predictable, trauma-informed strategies with staff. The NDE provides a 5-year average of teacher retention, And from 2017-18 school year through 22-23, the MDE shows statewide 8.2% of teachers left the profession, while 5.2 moved to other districts throughout the state. So that is one of the considerations that I wrote on here. The labor market favors employee choice, and the landscape for educators has changed since 2020. Many educators have been able to move to districts, say their home district if they don't live here in Oxford, and they have been recognizing steps on the salary schedule based on their years of experience. So that's another factor that we've had to consider. We've lost people to their home districts, whether it be Rochester or Walt Lake, and they don't drive, so that is another factor. Lastly, I want to touch briefly on burnout. Burnout is a common phenomenon in all professions. Teachers tend to see higher levels of burnout. One survey by RAND shows that teachers are more than twice as likely to be stressed as other working adults. Research from the Education Policy Innovation Collaborative shows that the number of teachers exiting the profession jumped in 21-22 by 1,041 unique individuals, but there's also good news. In that same year, the Education Policy Innovation Collaborative shows us that 2,123 new educators also entered the profession. So it's not all bad news. I'd like to add that our administration works to combat burnout by prioritizing excellent benefit packages, including EAP and paid time off for staff. We are probably one of the only districts in the state that offers paid parental leave. I will keep saying that every time I have the opportunity because it's incredible, and we are ahead of other districts, so I'm very proud of what we offer for our staff. Another initiative that we're working toward and is already in place is offering voice and choice via PD, professional development, and you actually saw that in Janet's presentation at the Winterfest PD. That helps people combat those feelings of burnout and stress when they have a voice and choice in what they're doing to further their career and their knowledge. So to change gears a little bit, I want to speak with you next about the Oxford Community Schools Exit Survey. All employees are asked to complete the exit survey to gather honest feedback. They are also offered time to meet with me in person. The exit survey helps us identify trend and gives us the opportunity to reflect and take action to reduce unwanted attrition. Reviewing the data with our building administrators allows us to assess what improvements are needed. I'm going to show you 3 slides with data from the survey. The first here is what influenced your decision to leave. I also want to mention that the exit survey was revamped and went live in April 2023. Prior to that, we were collecting data, but it wasn't as built out as it is now. And I would like to ask you to keep in mind that all staff are asked and do complete the exit survey. I'm not saying all staff from all departments. Whether they complete it or not, I'm not saying they all complete it. Sorry, that came out wrong. But when you look at this data, like for example, rate of pay is on here as number 1. It's more than just teachers, is the point I'm trying to make to you. We are competitive in our pay schedules, and that's something that we review all the time. But some of the folks answering the survey might have been in support roles where the pay is lower, and they're moving into positions that offer them more money. So I've had people, for example, maybe leave childcare to go into a different profession. Next, we have what does your new position offer that Oxford Community Schools does not? You can see again, we have higher rate of pay. I wanted to give you that caveat that all staff are asked to take it, so it's not necessarily, this is not drilled down by specific collective bargaining group to know if it's teacher pay, is it para pay. This is collective, this is all of our data. Next, we have what are the areas you feel Oxford Community Schools can improve upon. You can see communication is number 1, and I'd like to speak to that. In order to improve on communication, it is critical that we work to create more pathways, more ways and methods of sharing messages, and creating more feedback loops will also ensure that people at all levels have more chances and ways to ask a question, share a concern, or make a point and feel safe in doing so. That is a priority for us. Another priority is communicating more frequently. And I can speak personally, we have some upcoming changes with Skyward and Finance, and we are working specifically on campaigns that are drawn out ahead of time, well in advance, that will be communicated over and over. And research shows that the message needs to be heard at least 7 times to be assimilated. So we are working towards that. Communication is always an area that any organization can improve upon, and we are diligently working to improve upon that. As I mentioned previously, all this information is shared with our building level administrators too, so we can work on action plans on what needs to be improved. Lastly, I want to touch on employee training. So the data on the left is our Vector and ALICE completion rates for district staff as of January 2024. There can be variant student employees that are on leave or newly hired. And on average, 74.1% of new employees completed training within 30 days of hire. We were not pleased with that. That is not high enough. So effective January 2024, we've moved to a new model where all staff will complete their Vector and ALICE training before they start in their buildings. So I've met with support staff departments, including nutrition services and OELC. We are meeting with transportation tomorrow, and we are transitioning all groups to completing training before hire. I'll just leave you with a picture of our wonderful staff at our Welcome Back breakfast. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Jim, go ahead.
Ryan, I have a quick question. You mentioned that the exit surveys went live in April, but when did we actually start doing exit surveys?
We've been doing exit surveys for years. This iteration went live in April.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
new and improved, more questions, drills down more.
Okay.
So we've been collecting, I could go back and look at the date, but for sure back to 2017 at least or earlier, we
Okay.
had an online exit survey.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just have a comment.
Sure.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. Appreciate the update. I like the presentation too, I must say. Thank you for the data. It's really helpful. It's really helpful for us to see. And thanks for what you're continuing to do. Just like Ova was talking, you're seeing where we need to make adjustments, and that's exactly what we're doing. So thank you appreciate the data. Now this data on the exit surveys, this is since April. Now you said everybody is asked to complete it. It's not a requirement, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
I did have one question. Have we seen any new data on what the tenure of teaching is? So we know a long time it was an entire career someone would stay in teaching, but we hear rumblings, and I just don't know if there's any research that supports that the tenure is actually getting shorter and people are leaving the profession before they hit that.
Well, if you're leaving the profession before they reach their tenure.
In general, how many years do people remain in the profession?
I don't have data on that. I can tell you in researching in 2021, this research that I was reading, that less educators with current teaching certificates renewed their certificates. So the rate at which educators renewed their certificates dropped, which would signal that maybe more were leaving the profession. But specifically about tenure or the average length of tenure, I don't have that data
Okay.
with me now.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thanks, Ryan. Item B.
Yes, so after the last recovery plan update, the board, after being asked by some of our community members, wanted to have a data update. Typically that we bring you the data at the end of the year, but we pulled together some, I guess it's not mid-year, it's what, 4/5 year or something like that down the place. We pulled together some data, and that's what's in front of you. I'm not going to go through it word for word or item by item, but on the first page and throughout, you'll see that where the data is implicated, as an example, The question was just what we heard, or some of the questions are what Ryan, Mr. Reed just presented to us in terms of the training that we've had, 99.3% vector trainer, 99.65% ALICE training. That will be added to the recovery plan. This tells you that that's on page 4, item 2E. And so that's how we've organized this data. It's not pretty, but it just basically tells you that the next time, within a few weeks, when you open up that recovery plan, this data will now be in that third column of the recovery plan that basically says, where are we now with the metrics? So this is the metrics part. You'll see that we have included all the information around staff training, all the training that the recovery plan calls for, whether it's threat assessment, suicide assessment, vector training, or ALICE training. You'll notice there's also data on where we are with our suicide risk assessments, where we are with threat assessments, and where we are with bullying events. And I remember last year at this time, we brought you a report on bullying instances, and we were in the teens, low teens, but it was still double digits. And so far this year, we had 6 reports of bullying across the district, which is significantly less than we've ever had before. 5 investigations were completed where it was determined it was not bullying in the end, and 1 investigation determined that it was bullying. So that's the kind of data that's in here. We also have all the data around training staff in restorative practices. That's another huge part of the recovery plan, and you can see that we're moving ahead with 85% at the high school being trained, but we are still working to get our elementary numbers up in terms of training. So I just bring these charts to you so that you will be able to see what we are going to be inputting to the recovery plan and posting within the next couple of weeks. If there's any questions. Okay.
Any questions? Okay. And so these will just get incorporated into the big document. This is just a summary, correct?
This is the data that will be incorporated in the big document. Typically, this is incorporated at the end of the year, so it'll be incorporated now, where we are to date. But where we are to date is not where we're going to be at the end of the year, so it will be updated again at the end of the year. And if this is the kind of data you want reported to you more than once, we will next year plan on doing a mid-year report as well as an end-of-the-year report.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Moving on, Board of Education matters. In your packets that you received, you can see that we have a Board of Director elections for 2024 for the MASB. There are 3 for our region. They're in there. We don't have to solidify a vote today, but I encourage you guys to read up. There's bios on each of these individuals that are in our region for the Board of Directors seat. So it's more informational.
And I will add that OCSBA also did a candidate forum that I believe was emailed to all board members that we had an opportunity to have questions answered by all 3. 2 of the candidates were there, but you may want to check that out too.
All right. The other is a reimbursement request for both myself and Mary. We'll speak a little bit later about some of the things that we did while we were in Washington, but if you would like to, Heather?
Move to approve to reimburse Dr. Erin Reese's expenses incurred during her attendance at the 2024 NSBA, which is the National School Board Association Advocacy Institute Conference, from January 28th, 2024 to January 30th, 2024, for the total amount of $982.83.
Do I have support? Colleen?
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do you want to read the second one too? Heather?
Sure. Move to approve to reimburse Mary Hanser's expenses incurred during her attendance at the 2024
NSBA, the National School Board Association Advocacy Institute Conference from January 28th, 2024 to January 30th, 2024 for the total amount of $521.55.
Do I have support?
Support.
Colleen?
Yeah, support.
Discussion, I'll just note, on Mary, she received a scholarship from OCSBA to attend for the registration fee, so that's why there's a little bit of a difference in the price there. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the February 27th, 2024 regular meeting. We would like to move it, and so from 6:30 to 5:30 in order to review the superintendent candidates that we would like to invite for interview. So if someone would like to make that motion. For the report, sorry, the leadership profile report that was, so they, I guess, make the motion and we'll do it during discussion, so I'm appropriate.
I can do it.
Mary?
Move to change the February 27, 2024 regular meeting start time from 6:30 PM to 5:30 PM.
Does support? Colleen?
Sure. Support.
And then discussion. So the HYA firm met with a lot of individuals during the focus groups last week, so we thank all of those individuals who attended. In addition, the online evaluation or survey period closed on February 9th. From that, they will put together a leadership profile report, which will outline for the candidates and for us what it is that the community, our staff, really are looking for in the next superintendent for Oxford Community Schools. This will work in two ways. It will help us inform decisions on looking at candidates and their qualifications, but also inform candidates to make sure it's a right fit into our community if they are looking to come in. And so they will come and present that at 5:30, and then we'll move on to the regular business meeting during that. And this way, we didn't have to call a special meeting. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Colleen, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, there is still one more opportunity for people, right?
Yes,
There's still the
February
Zoom-
18th.
Yeah.
Yep, there is a Zoom session for those who are unable to attend the in-person sessions, so yes. All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right, any opposed? All right, great. All right, during one of our last meetings, we were proposed the Teacher Cadet CTE program. We are here to vote on it. If someone would like to make the motion. Mary?
I would love to. Move to approve the Teacher Cadet CTE program for Oxford High School.
Can I get support? James? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, great. I'll have to let Mrs. Butts know. That's exciting. All right, item number 9, Human Resources.
Yes, I would like to make some comments before we move into those motions. The board had asked that I inform them of the reorganization plan that would be put in place to handle the work duties of those positions that were being recommended for reduction. I'd like to go over that briefly, and I know I did send it to you as well in an email today. But basically, we had 3 guest administrators at the high school who were hired 3 years ago to help with the initial return of students to the high school, the initial recovery in that building. It was positions that were described as being 3 years, and this is the 3rd year, and those positions are up. So those positions will be reduced, but it requires a layoff recommendation in order to do that. I have spoken to high school administration, and they have been preparing for this, and they are prepared to manage the change.
Is that a grant position? I'm sorry.
Some of them were on grant positions, but the grant, I'm not sure this year. I know last year the positions were covered by the grant. This year they may not be. Are they? No, Courtney's shaking her head. Well, as our grant monies have dwindled, we've had to take some of the grant positions off and put them into the general fund. And these were 3 of those. Another position was safety administrator, and fortunately the current state of safety in the district is far ahead of where it was when the safety director came in, as well as the executive director of safety and security came shortly after this position was put in place. So therefore, the central management of safety services for the district can now be done with one administrator at the central level instead of two. To assist with the duties that will be left behind by this position, we are going to extend the work hours of the administrative assistant in that department, who will be able to handle all of the scheduling of security, the communications related to that, as well as the monitoring and inventorying of equipment and supply requirements. We're also going to be, there are some duties left behind that happen throughout the year when we have certain events and activities where we require somebody with a police experience background. We have all of our Fortis security people with police backgrounds. We have our SROs with police backgrounds, and we have 2 individuals employed by our district as our own employees with police backgrounds. So when those duties need to be handled, they will be handled on an additional hourly paid basis. The position with the largest number of duties to be reorganized is the reduction of our assistant superintendent for secondary instruction. We're going to reorganize the duties. We're going to move to 1 assistant superintendent for instruction. That assistant superintendent will become the assistant superintendent for teaching and learning pre-K through 12th grade, and you all know that's Anita. All principals of those buildings will report to her, as well as the executive director of special ed, who also reports to her. The executive director for recovery and student services will now report to her. That is Todd's position. And the director of CTE at the high school, Lisa, will report to her as well. To assist her in this additional load of work, we've done several things. One is we have a position right now that is Director of Curriculum and Instructional Technology. That position will be converted to Director of Curriculum Grants as well as Instructional Technology. The person holding that position now is certified at the secondary level, so that person will be able to focus a lot on the teaching and learning activities, school improvement plans, data accumulation projects, as was explained to you tonight through OVA, and that will become part of his position. The district is really far ahead on the technology scene because this person, his former position was really focused a lot on technology. The budget is also going to force us to take a bit of a pause on new technology. Fortunately, we're ahead, so that pause for a couple of years, I think, will not hurt the instructional and technology integrity of the district. So he'll be able to shift focus, and he has the background in order to do that. And the other area, we're going to take a person who is currently the coordinator of our multi-tiered systems of support, really works heavily around data. We're going to move that position to a director level. We're going to take it from school year to year round. So that will basically add 3 months of service to that department. And as you know, we had our data specialist resign. We are replacing that person, and that person, when replaced, will report to this new position. So that will also take a load off of what had originally been a direct report to the assistant superintendent offices. Finally, we have asked our illustrious OVA person that you just heard from tonight, Janet, if she would accept moving into a position of executive director and continue her principal duties at OVA, but add to those duties supervision of our Bridges program and our Crosswords program. And she, along with all the other people I have mentioned in this reorg plan, have consented to do those things. We were able to get all of this in place when Courtney brought you the 5-year projection. She brought you the net cost savings. That's the cost savings that we are going to realize after these positions are eliminated, after we pay for the reorganization costs I've just mentioned to you, and then those savings will be intact. And after going through the mathematics, that is still the case with this recommendation I bring you tonight. So that's the reorganization plan behind what will happen when these positions here do not return next year, which is my recommendation to you. That's it.
Okay.
Any questions? I should have asked for questions. It was a lot, I know, but okay, thank you.
All right, well, who would like to make the first motion?
I'll make the first one.
Colleen?
Move to approve the layoff of James Vernier, School Safety Administrator, effective June 28th, 2024.
Do I have a support? James? Any discussion from the board?
Just a sad day.
All right, roll call vote. James?
Yep, let's see, President Reese,
Yes.
let's see, Secretary Summers, yes. Treasurer Hanser,
Yes.
and Trustee Schultz,
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer.
Yes.
Who'd like to read the second one? James?
Move to approve the layoff of Stephen Wolf, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Instruction, effective June 28th, 2024.
Support? Colleen? Any other discussion? Roll call vote?
Yep, President Reese,
Yes.
Secretary Summers, yes. Treasurer Hanser,
Yes.
Trustee Schultz,
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer,
Yes.
Third one? Mary, we read it?
Move to approve the layoff of Michael Schweig, Michael Schweg, Guest Administrator, effective June 28, 2024.
Support? James? Any discussion?
Just one comment. I don't know the other guest administrators as well, but, you know, Mike Schwag, you gotta love him. He just always comes back for us anytime we need him, so that's really a great thing for us.
Yep. All right, roll call vote. James?
Yep, President Reese,
Yes.
Secretary Summers, yes. And then Treasurer Hanser,
Yes.
Trustee Schultz,
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer,
Yes.
All right, next one. Mary?
Move to approve the layoff of Donald Maskill, Guest Administrator, effective June 28, 2024.
Support? Heather? Any discussion? Roll call vote. James?
yep. President Reese,
Yes.
Secretary Summers, yes. Treasurer Hanser,
Yes.
Trustee Schultz,
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer.
Yes.
All right, last one. Mary?
Move to approve the layoff of Martin Kay, Guest Administrator, effective June 28, 2024.
Support? Heather? Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Yep. President Reese,
Yes.
Secretary Summers, yes. Treasurer Hanser,
Yes.
Trustee Schultz,
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer,
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda. 2024 to 2025 School of Choice enrollment dates. I think we've already seen the memo, and so we just need to approve it. So there's no changes on it, right, Allison?
No changes.
No changes. All right, Mary?
Move to approve the 2024-2025 Schools of Choice enrollment dates as presented. First semester/trimester 2024, developmental kindergarten through ninth grade unlimited. Unlimited Schools of Choice enrollment will open March 1, 2024 and close on August 14, 2024. 10th and 11th grades unlimited to IB, Health Science, Engineering Academy, and Dance Conservatory, Early College. Unlimited Schools of Choice enrollment will open March 1, 2024 and close on August 14, 2024. Developmental kindergarten through 12th unlimited Oxford Virtual Academy. Unlimited Schools of Choice enrollment will open on March 1, 2024 and close on August 14, 2024.
Can I get a support? Support. Colleen, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, second item, Dr. Williman, was the mass notification system for Drainer Road.
Yes, with the addition of programs being drove and Drainer, we will need to have the mass notification system installed over at the Drainer Road property, and because of the cost, we're bringing it to you. It would be the same style of system that is district-wide in our other campuses that hold students, and so being able to have the same type of camera strobe and the enunciators and the notification that we have in buildings like this, also where we're going to house students. And this is just the first preview of it today. You'll vote on it at the next meeting, but you have all the documents and what how many of each will be and what our responsibilities will be at Eagles. And Eagle will be installing it as they've installed our other mass notification systems.
Any questions? James?
So with the proposal and stuff, I know that we've run into supply chain issues before. Have we gotten past that? Or do we expect any delays upon approval of this?
I
You know?
don't expect any delays.
Okay.
Part of what they'll be doing as the burglar alarm is getting installed is they'll start wiring for it at the same time to try and cut down on any of that. So we're able to input the order, like as soon as it's approved, we can get that in. So that by the time students are there, it will be fully implemented, and
Okay.
we won't be stuck in a situation like we were when
Right.
we were installing this because of those same supply chain issues. But
Yeah.
I make no promises on
Right, right.
100%, but right now it's all on track.
No, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda is unscheduled public comment. Again, the cards were in the back. Hand them in to Angela, and we have them here. All right, that's it for cards. We got one more coming. Yep. All right, we'll go ahead and get started then. Andrea Jones?
Are we on? I have more of a question than a comment tonight. I would like to know the positions that are being eliminated. Are they being eliminated with pensions? I think that's something the community would like to know. And also, I'll throw in that I think we need to add some additional people that need to be leaving the district. Sean Hopkins, Heather Schaefer, Mary, Vicki, all the people that were directly involved that day. We know Wolf is now on his way out, but this wasn't exactly the way it should have been done, and we all know that. I think it's important we know if he gets to walk away with his pension.
Kara Erskine? Sorry, microphone wasn't on.
Also, just more of a question. Could we get the citations and resources that you put in your presentation? I thought it was a good presentation, and I would just like all that information. That was it.
Oh, thank you.
Angela, is that presentation in our board book already? Yes.
With the citations?
With pardon?
Citation.
Citations.
Were the citations?
She referenced a lot of stuff. Just some of the data.
If not, we'll add it. Thank you.
Mark Gillum?
Send in love to the victims and survivors of the Oxford and Michigan State University shootings, especially our students that were involved in both tragedies. Love and respect to our teachers who give their very best to our children every day. We appreciate you. President Reese, will you please direct our new attorneys, Perkins Coy, to file lawsuits against the individuals named for their failures in the Guidepost investigation, beginning with all seated board members on November 30th, like Tom Donnelly, Dan D'Alessandro, Heather Schaefer, Mary Hanser, Superintendent Tim Throne, Principal Stephen Wolf, Pam Fine, Hopkins, EJAC, SRO Lauer, and Rourke. They were warned ahead of time and all chose to ignore the repeated warnings or follow best practices with threat assessments as defined by the Secret Service standard for schools. Along with the immediate firing and removal of Superintendent Vicki Markovich for her failures to lead an effective recovery team at the high school or fire individuals named in the investigation, our board ordered an investigation, but Superintendent Vicki Markovich undermines its findings, stating they are not actionable because the report hasn't been adjudicated, and refuses to remove the individuals for their failures that allowed the November 30th shooting to happen. In my opinion, the root cause of Oxford's shooting and murder of Hannah, Madison, Justin, and Tate on November 30th over 2 years ago is failed leadership. I'm thankful for the guilty verdict for the shooter's mother. Up next will be his father, and then we'll be focusing on holding the individuals already named in the sheriff's incident report and the guidepost investigation accountable. We need a superintendent who understands their role as an employee working for and at the direction of the board. The board was never meant to fill chairs at a meeting and sign checks while their employees did whatever they wanted without oversight. Recovery coordinator Laura Azzoni at the high school was run out after working 9 months and still no replacement. This was the responsibility of the board to address and fix. Counselors Pam Fine and individuals like Mike Brennan have been isolating and blocking anyone at the high school that supports critical incident stress management, or people like the CISM team dispatched by the Oakland County Emergency Services who were forcibly removed. In Laura Azzoni's letter of resignation, she states, lack of ongoing partnerships with existing county, state, and federal recovery supports. Oxford District leadership, lack of prioritization of trauma-informed supports, and have struggled with building cabinet-level leaders to integrate trauma and resiliency into discussions. Personal barriers. I have felt frequently dismissed as a person and trauma expert by the individuals at the high school for 19 months. Vicki, you've been here for a year. Why didn't you fix this? And why haven't any of the boards seated? Now my daughter was a victim of this, and you people need to do your job. You haven't helped us, Vicki, at all.
Marissa Prince. So here we are at our first board meeting since the trial and the verdict for the shooter's mother. And it's important to note there was testimony from the counselor and the dean that revealed new information that wasn't included in your $3 million guidepost report, which there was a $400,000 expense for on the January expenses that you approved. So maybe we're still paying more and more and more and more for it. But that's because those two key players refused to participate, which left a large gap in the report. So that not only suppressed information that the families of the victims had been asking for, but it also prevents further preventable deaths. While the teachers, probably some of the same ones that were mentioned as being burnt out, raised serious concerns about this kid, the dean and counselor felt that student sadness was common, attributed his interest in guns to a hunting culture in Oxford, and didn't view him as dangerous. It is crucially important to learn from those two people about their thought process and their decision-making process and the training that the dean claimed that he had. Communication was identified by HR as an issue. What role did that play in all of this? If this board truly cares about the full truth and protecting children and preserving the reputation of our district amidst global attention now, you will call for a state or federal probe into our shooting and response. Yes. A fully independent after-action review is how you should phrase it. Fully independent after-action review is how you phrase it when you write to the state or to the federal government. It's not too late. I spoke with Michelle Gay, a mother from Sandy Hook, Connecticut, whose son Joey was killed. She told me it's common after these shootings to have multiple investigations. It's not too late, and it's what I'm asking for to protect further tragedies like this. We still don't fully understand what happened because there wasn't cooperation with the report. So we won't understand all of the factors until we have a proper report, and we don't have that yet, even though we spent all the money. Thank you.
Corey Vanderkay.
So compassion is not harming people who have already been harmed. I would like to know what you have done to help support the victims and their families. And I'd like to know what you've done to help support the survivors. From what I understand, no one's reached out to them. It's 2 years. Nobody has contacted them to make sure they're doing okay, what supports they need. These are the people that need your help the most. Yeah. So I feel that you've continued to harm these families by using deceptive pretenses and acting as if nothing's happened. One of the questions that I have recently is I would like to know who called the insurance company while the shooting was happening. How was the insurance company on site while survivors were being treated? They got there, I think, within a half hour. So these are just some of the questions that are unanswered. I sent you the quotes from MSU, but I thought I'd just read them today, because this is what we should strive to be like. So while no amount of compensation can ever replace the loss of a life, we do hope this brings some closure and support and relief to those families. That was speaking about the settlements, and that was said by the Vice Chair, Dan Kelly at MSU. Another quote from them is that the university gives its deepest condolences to each of the 3 families, and we are committed to ensuring the memory of their child is not forgotten in the Spartan community. And I just feel that that should be our attitude. I would like to know what we're doing to honor the victims. I don't think that we've done that at all. And so that's a question I have. What is going on, Heather, with you? You stare at me every time I come, and you are smug and just, I don't know, I'm not sure what is going on right now, but that's what you're doing. I guess I just want to know, what are you doing for these victims? And when are you going to answer that question? What are you doing for the survivors? I'm worried about the siblings that are going to go into the high school and that are going to walk the hallways where Hannah was killed. So that's it. Today, that's all I have for you. I just would like to know, or I would like you to think about what you can do, please, and reach out. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Under scheduled activities, you can see as the next item on the agenda for those who have a copy of it. There's a retreat this Saturday for the board. We have midwinter break coming up, and then our next Conversations with Coffee. I do appreciate all of those who do come to that. I do feel like we have great conversation. during that time. And you can see future dates, including spring break. Any administrative clarification?
Not tonight.
Okay, final board comments. I did want to talk a little bit about the trip to Washington DC and some of the work that was done in Washington DC by the National School Board Association, but also from myself and Mary. We did have an opportunity to meet with our federal representatives. One of it was under the IDEA Full Funding Act. As you may or may not know, the IDEA is supposed to be funded at 40% by the feds, and right now they support 13%. We were able to talk to the legislator that represents our area, and they have signed on to the Full Funding Act, which is a bipartisan act to attempt to increase special education funding to public schools, and that supports us by allowing us to use that fund that we're taking away from the general fund to support our special education students fully. The other proposed budget cut in the fiscal year 25 budget for all public schools across the country is Title I funding at 40% of a cut, which equals billions of dollars in the United States. Again, if those monies are not flowing into public schools, they have to come out of our general fund. So it's important that when you guys do, and those who want to write letters to legislators, these are really important topics that they consider, not removing funding that is currently established in these budgets. This is would be a reduction of funding to cut Title I. Oxford in particular has several students that benefit from Title I funding and supports, and to lose that could be it'd be devastating because we'd have to pull it from other areas. There are two other areas in which we talked about. Michigan is ahead of the game, and that is in nutritional services and allowing for full funding for meals for children for both breakfast and lunch. Michigan as a state is one of 8 that already allows that to continue. So it was more of a directional conversation of how it's going. We elicited a lot of the challenges that we believe that our food services department faces. The significant increase in students taking opportunity of that free lunch compressed the staff, and our lunches were backed up and kids were not having enough time to eat. They have adjusted that at all the school levels, but it took a few months to get into the round of it. The other is food waste. There's a lot of students wasting food, and some of the laws require we just throw it away, which is very wasteful. And so we had a conversation with USDA on how do we create rules that would support maybe our kids in after-school programs with some of those foods that we would normally just waste in a day. And then the last one is the implementation and proliferation really of AI technology as it exists within our culture. And what does that mean for public schools in the future? There was a lot of conversation about how do we better prepare students to be able to work in a workforce where AI is going to be a reality and not just a thing that we play with on ChatGPT. A lot of ideas. I don't think there's anything solidified in research or any laws that have really come out, but some good takeaways for us as groups as to how do we use it to support our teachers, how do we use it to train our children, and how do we protect our children when it comes to using some of these models so that their information is not being put into an AI duplication machine. So I think there was a lot of feedback. It just inspires conversation. There's no real efforts coming out of it yet federally. There is one federal mandate that was pushed down, but it was all about FERPA at this point, and so there's going to be other, I think, legislation that we're going to see surrounding AI, so it's good to have at least some advanced knowledge on it. Any other comments?
I'd just like to add that I found it very beneficial to be able to meet with our legislators in their space, on their turf. We were able to continue to build relationships because our legislators, especially in Washington, they're not experts on everything, and they do rely on their staff, but they also rely on us coming to them and letting them know what is important to us as school district, as public schools, because they only hear what they are told. So it's important to develop those relationships, and I think that's one of the ways that we helped have our legislator helped her understand more about what we were doing, and so she could say yes, and she could sign on to the bill.
Yeah, IDEA is really important. Without bipartisan support, it won't go anywhere. And IDEA, for those who don't know, is the Individuals and Disabilities Education Act, which supplies funding for special education student programming and resources. All right. Any other comments from the board?
No, just thank you for going.
You're welcome. All right. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.